Now, for more analysis on this latest move by the ICC on the Central African Republic, we're joined live from our Johannesburg studios by Professor Shadrack Gutto of the Institute of African Renaissance Studies at the University of South Africa. Welcome to Africa Live. Now, Professor, who are the likely targets of these preliminary investigations announced by the ICC?
Well, I think this is an important intervention, really, that is meant, first of all, to be able to warn those who may continue with the carnage that is going on in the Central African Republic, but also really to seek justice for those who have been victims of serious crimes that have been committed in the clash that has been going on. And the people who will be the subject of this investigation obviously are the leaders of the various factions of the so-called rebel groups. But secondly, also it may be part of the former government. And I think that the question will be on the basis of evidence, how to be able to collect the evidence and connect the various groups or the various leaders of those groups to specific acts of crime, of the murders that have taken place, intimidation that has taken, torture, and so on. So I think that it is very wide open because the place has been very fluid. No particular one group fighting another. It has been a number of groups and factions.
Now, Professor Gutto, you did mention how important it is that evidence be collected. So how will the ICC go about investigations in the C.A.R, bearing in mind that most of the institutions there have collapsed and the environment is so polarized?
The situation is still very volatile, but as we all know, there is at the moment really an interim government that is headed by the acting head of state, the lady who is acting head of state at the moment. And from that point of view, the fledgling government obviously will cooperate with the investigation being carried out by the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. But also assistance will be given, obviously, by the troops that have gone in to intervene, the AU group that is there, military intervention force, but also the French forces that are there. So I believe that they will be able to assist in trying to gather the evidence. But of course, gathering evidence will depend on people being free to, when they are interviewed, to be able really to testify on what actually took place, because the victims themselves and the survivors are the ones who will provide concrete evidence on what may have happened on the ground.
Now, Professor Gutto, some may argue that the C.A.R isn't alone in possible war crimes. South Sudan has experienced similar kinds of loss of lives, but the ICC hasn't yet announced anything with regard to South Sudan. So why do you think the International Court has moved so swiftly on the C.A.R?
I think the situation, the crisis in the Central African Republic preceded the crisis that is facing South Sudan. It has been there for quite a while, and therefore a lot of people have actually been killed, and we are dealing here with a situation where it is very clear that these various armed groups that are fighting, some of them are projecting themselves as Muslims, others as Christians, and so on. So they are politicizing religion. But it may be much deeper than that, because the country is rich, and therefore I think at the base of it is also certain economic issues. The South Sudan one, which started on the 15th of December, is still very new, but it is a situation which I think is being addressed very emphatically by the AU, and the parties are in a negotiation process, and people are not continuing to be killed on a daily basis as it is in Central African Republic. But of course, if the situation in the Sudan, South Sudan is not really brought to an end quickly, it may be also a target for the prosecutor initiating what we call in legal jargon proprio motu investigation, meaning that the prosecutor initiates the investigation. It is not one which is referred to it by the UN Security Council or where a state party refers the matter to the prosecutor.
Right, Professor Gutto, thanks very much for your time today. We're speaking there to Professor Shadrack Gutto of the University of South Africa.